Now, this might also be a controversial placement, and I was honestly struggling to rank this guy on the list. Many people think that he's the best.
We're analyzing Jason today.
It's about time everybody stops glazing Mr. "My hitbox is more erect than yours" and faced the music. Yes, I think Jason is a weak killer and not at all good for beginners, but not only that, I'm willing to go as far as to say that Jason is the worst killer in the entire game. Since Jason is getting replaced by Slasher on the same day this video releases, I thought it would be fun to give the Hitbox Warrior a little farewell by analysing him and his many flaws in depth. But before I start tearing him apart, did you know that only a teeny tiny percentage of people who watch my videos are subscribed? I mean, come on, we can't be having that, can we? Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, or I'll come for you and your family. Oh, and one last thing. Feel free to join my Discord server. It is the best possible way to interact with me and partake in videos and live streams. So join up if that's something you'd be interested in. The link is in the description, so go ahead.
Don't touch my pizza. Don't touch my jelly.
First of all, I want you to have a look at the full roster of killers in Forsaken. What do you know about Jason in particular that makes him so different from the rest?
Yes, boy, that's right! Jason has chlamydia.
No, but really though. Jason is the only killer to have 0 long-ranged options in his kit, which immediately puts him at a disadvantage because he needs to close the distance with survivors in order to deal damage. Meanwhile, the others are at least able to do something to attack at long range. This also turns Jason into a massive looping victim, but we'll talk more about that later. Now, Jason is also the fastest killer in the game, which assists him with his melee-based playstyle, but unfortunately, it doesn't actually do all that much for him. Well, consider that some of the other killers are actually able to slow the survivors down, for example, using Corrupt Nature, Digital Footprint, Entanglement, etc. And if you think about it, some of those killers are actually able to speed themselves up. For example, Corrupt Energy, Digital Footprint again, and Entanglement again! Nerf 1x, please. But Jason can't do either of those things. I mean, Noli can't either, but who actually gives a shit about him anyway? Okay, I mean, he's technically the only one who can slow himself down. That's not really an advantage, but I suppose I better mention it anyway, you know, since I'm doing a really in-depth analysis right now. His playstyle also encourages him to use tunnel vision and focus on one survivor at a time, and I'll admit it, the bastard does a damn good job at it. A great job, even. You see, the best part about Jason for me is that if you really want a survivor dead, they will die eventually, regardless of how long it takes. For the survivors, it's all about delaying those deaths for as long as possible in order to waste the most amount of time. So yeah, the issue here is that you might end up getting a couple of guaranteed kills, which is cool and all, but you might end up wasting an arseload of time just to get those kills that it becomes almost impossible to win the round. I've noticed it can take a while to get a lot of damage on a particular survivor, which means you must commit to the kill. When playing as Jason, you can't afford to take your attention off them, especially if they're given the chance to heal. Because if they do heal, whether it be through a med kit or another survivor, you'll have to restart the entire chase from the beginning. And I would genuinely rather gashing wound myself than have to go through that. Sure, this single target playstyle works like a charm against less experienced players, but as soon as you're up against even a slightly competent team of survivors, your life becomes a fucking misery. In fact, a team of skilled survivors can actually shut down Jason completely, rendering him completely useless for the whole round. Moreover, Sentinels who know what they're doing are super effective against Jason because tunnel vision can lead the killer to kind of ignore the other Sentinels, which will allow them to get free stuns, which destroys the chase, allowing the focused survivor time to get even further away and maybe even heal.
And don't even get me started on Chance.
My guy is the Jason counter. He has an insanely long-range stun, meaning he doesn't even need to be near Jason to get the most out of it. I find that the best opportunity to shoot Jason is just after he gets out of Raging Pace, because that's when he's most vulnerable. It's just straight up not fair.
Unless the gun blows up, of course.
Looping. I brought up looping earlier, and I think now's the time to really talk about it in detail, because looping is without a doubt Jason's biggest weakness, even for the best of the best Jason players. On the majority of maps, an experienced survivor with good stamina management skills can literally loop Jason over and over and over and over and over. And there's almost nothing the killer can do about it either, because Jason has no ranged options. So he has no choice but to try his hardest to keep up pursuit. The only tool he really has that can help him in this situation is raging pace, and even then it's still easily exploitable because its walk speed is only slightly faster than a survivor's walk speed. Oh, and that's not to account for the fact that characters like Noob and Elliot are able to speed themselves up to further extend this loop. Of course, the loop can also be interrupted by other survivors on the outside. I mean, imagine how it feels to chase a single survivor around for like 2 minutes straight. You're finally about to kill them, and then oh, they get healed, and you have to do it all over again. Oh my god. To elaborate on how easy it is to counter Jason, he also gets completely fucked over by every single support character as well. A Builderman or Dussagar player with a brain is enough to give the killer crippling depression and drive them to the closest noose. I'm dead serious too, by the way. Those turrets are no joke. Seriously. By now, I hope you get my point on looping. It just sucks actual balls for Jason. Every other killer can do something about it except him, which is exactly why I believe he's the weakest of the 5, without a doubt. Yeah, technically I've already made most of my points on why Jason is terrible already, but I'm still gonna go and take a look at his abilities and where their strengths and weaknesses lie. And luckily, there is a lot to like here. I honestly don't think any of the abilities he does have are bad, even if they're not very interesting. It's just his overall play style. That's the thing that's hindering him. I'm gonna start off with his passive, which I see like nobody ever talk about ever, and that's because obviously it's just kind of a nothing burger, to be honest. I genuinely forget he has this most of the time. I mean, it's simple really. He's mute, therefore his terror radius is slightly reduced. Yeah, that's it.
Now, I have a little bit of a game theory, if you will.
About what I reckon happened here. And I think that their original concept of Jason had more of a stealth-based playstyle to him, but this ended up not translating properly into the full release of the game, resulting in a killer who should be stealthy, but it ends up having very, very little effect on the gameplay. Honestly, I kind of wish they leaned more into that stealthiness playstyle, but, you know, I guess we'll maybe get some future killers who are more stealth-based, I hope. Maybe like Jeff the Killer or something. Let's be honest, this passive is not fooling anybody, bro. It's not fooling me, it's not fooling pro players, hell, it's not even fooling new players. I think it's fair to say that this is probably the worst killer passive in the game, and if you disagree, you can, I don't know, you can suck my balls. But if Jason has at least one thing going for him, it's his M1. Seriously, his slash is the most important thing he has, and if it was any weaker than it is now, he'd be completely useless. When using this killer, you will be abusing your slash as much as possible. Literally, all you'll be doing is holding forwards and swinging occasionally, which, now that I'm saying it out loud, sounds really boring. His M1 does an instant 20 damage and an additional 8 from the bleeding effect, resulting in 28 total. This value's actually kind of cracked though, considering how Jason has the lowest cooldown and one of the shortest windups, being only a devious, 0.2 seconds on his M1. But the craziest part is that you can't even body block this attack. In fact, Jason's slash in particular is the only one that can pierce and hit multiple survivors at once. You might not find yourself doing this a lot, but it really hurts the survivor team when you do, because it becomes a shitload harder to recover when multiple people are injured at the same time. All of that combined results in an M1 so powerful that it's scary enough to completely ward off other survivors from trying to assist their team. I personally think that Jason Slash is the best M1 in the game, although there are a few strong contenders, mainly Cool Kid and 1X. Nolly's fucking sucks though. On to Behead, which I already discussed in my killer ability ranking video from a week ago, and I did place it in the top 5, and I don't really regret that. I definitely have a lot of good things to say about it, but there are maybe a couple of issues that are worth pointing out now. Yes, it is just a glorified version of the M1 that can be a little slippery at times, but for the most part, it's pretty consistent. Sometimes I find it just goes right through a survivor, but that's probably just me being fucking fucking mentally deficient. The head also inflicts the most overpowered status effect in the game, Helpless, which locks survivor abilities for a whopping 8 seconds. I still stand by my point that being able to just remove a survivor's abilities is busted as hell, and you can argue with the wall. I will admit though, it is pretty situational and is easy to predict or counter if you're playing as a Sentinel like Guest, but it's still pretty good, let's be honest here. That's about it. Still a good ability, in my opinion. Gashing Wound is probably the weakest ability he has, but it's still a decent punishing tool, but in comparison to the other killers and their high damage abilities, Jason just falls short. You'll usually not get very much out of using it in a chase, and you should only swing it if you're absolutely sure you're gonna land it. Or, I mean, if you just don't care, then swing wherever you want. You screw yourself over if you miss though, because of the extremely long end lag, essentially giving the survivor free distance. What you should do is use it as a method to punish survivors for their mistakes. For example, a Shedletsky or 2-time missing their stun, or, I don't know, a Guest screwing up their block. The hitbox is huge, so in most cases, they will not be able to avoid it at all. And as you know, if you do land it, you'll deal a painful 50 damage and reset the chase in your favor, which is still pretty good. You know, I don't hate this ability. Last but certainly not least is Raging Pace. It's once again pretty strong if you use it correctly. If you get the absolute most value out of it, you pretty much have a second stamina bar, so what's not to like there? Unfortunately, it's not actually that useful when it comes to looping because, as I said earlier, it's quite easy to exploit, but otherwise it's very useful in a regular chase. But here's the thing that I've brought up before. It's not a great aura reading tool at all. Not only does it only track one survivor, which especially kind of sucks considering that everyone else, except Cool Kid, can directly highlight every survivor at a time. Additionally, it has a long-ass cooldown, which can be really bad if you lose sight of the survivor in Last Man Standing. So, oh yeah, well, I guess that's about it. Like I said, good abilities, but a bad playstyle. But see the fact that people still put this guy in S tier, it just genuinely, it baffles me so much. I don't understand. I'm gonna miss Jason, you know. He's one of the main reasons I even started playing this game in the first place, because, you know, not a lot of people know this about me, but I'm actually a pretty big Friday the 13th fan. Still, I'm excited for tonight's slasher update, which will probably already be out by the time you're seeing this. I wanted to get this out there now as a small goodbye to the Hitbox Warrior, even if I did spend most of the video like pissing on his grave. I have faith in the developers that Slasher will be a good replacement. I'm also praying for a special LMS between him and Guest on release, but I guess we'll have to see on that one, I don't know. If you agreed with my takes, leave a like or comment or whatever to show your appreciation, but if you disagreed and want to kill me, you should still leave a like because, you know,
I said so.
Regardless, I hope you enjoyed the analysis, and I hope to see you soon. Don't forget to subscribe, and thank you a ton for watching.
Bye-bye.